Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Taking the Points show. Audible last second. JJ, Coach, your son's lacking. JJ is not here. I'll come to you first. Coach Jay, happy Thanksgiving to you and the family. How are things going with you in Florida, Coach?
Happy Thanksgiving. Everything's good. I'm over here in Daytona Beach, Florida, visiting my middle son, Joey. He's got basketball practice tomorrow. He coaches at Stetson, so we came here to visit him.
Sounds great. Florida weather is probably much better than Ohio weather. We've got nothing but cold weather and rain. So you're probably soaking in the sun. We've got Michael in studio filling in for JJ. Michael, happy to have you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, doing great. Super excited to be on tonight, and thank you guys for the invite. Looking forward to the show.
So, as you guys know, obviously JJ's usually here with Coach. We have his picks still, but we will just keep those in the tally. Coach Jay, congratulations, man. You won again 2 weeks in a row. I won 2, now you won 2.
Easy pickings, Grant. Easy pickings.
Like you said,
I had a tough week, man. It was a tough week.
Yeah, it was tough. It seems like for you get the picks right. Like you said it a couple weeks ago. Over-unders happen, and that's when you start to have some trouble.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like you said, you're the only one on this panel that knows what the hell they're talking about, right? That's your go-to line. So before we get into the picks and the overall records, Peter, we have 2 tweets from Coach Jay that we want you to elaborate on. You are Mr. Social Media Star. Go ahead and show the tweets. Tweet number 1, Coach Jay. Black Monday coming to a theater near you. Been there, done that. Care to elaborate on tweet number 1?
There were some tough losses for some coaches, and I know it's a tough time. I never want to see any coach lose their job, but it's just part of the business, and I just know it's coming. It's coming because it happened to me, and it's going to happen to others every year that there's pro football. Black Monday is coming.
There was another one also. Go ahead and put them back up. Experts love for them to call a game with below average tackles, young QBs, a small wide receiver that doesn't block. Good luck. And people were questioning who you were talking about, and you go, we're talking about the Steelers. Don't get me started on the Commanders. Ugly loss for your Commanders last week, Coach Jay. Walk us through what the hell happened there.
Well, sometimes you come out and a team punches you in the mouth and you don't respond. And that's what happened to Washington. The New York Giants came out. They were the wounded animal. My dad always said, beware of the wounded dog. And the wounded dog came out fighting. That's what the Giants did. And Washington could never recover. Sam Howell had some bad interceptions, some bad turnovers. They fumbled 3 times, threw 3 interceptions. That is a recipe for disaster. And that's what that game was for Washington.
I know you mentioned you don't like coaches on the hot seat, but it sounds like in Washington and in LA, at least, a couple of them are probably on the hot seat. We'll show the overall records real quick, and then we'll get into what everybody wants to talk about is this week's slate. Coach Jay, Week 11 champion again. I know I'm still dragging ass on the back end, but it is what it is. I won 2, lost 2. I'm going to come back this week, ironically enough, Coach Jay. I have a lot of different picks than you guys, but we'll get into it. Packers-Lions, first game on the Thanksgiving slate. I'm coming to you, Coach Jay, then I'm going to come to Michael. I was looking at the slate. In every game on here, Packers, Lions, Commanders, Cowboys, 49ers, Seahawks. I think this is the day where every favorite wins, and if there's one dog that could win, I'm taking my Green Bay Packers. Coach Jay, there's not a 0.0% chance that the Packers win this game. There's some way that they win, right?
Yes. The good news is Jordan Love played his best game as a Packer. And that's a good sign for Green Bay. That's a good sign for Jordan Love's confidence and the LaFleur's confidence in calling plays for Bryce Love. So that's a good thing for you. I just think Detroit is a much better team. Defensively, they'll play better. I think offensively, despite having a tough game last week, Jared Goff still found a way to win that football game. And I love the Detroit Lions' mental makeup. They're a tough physical team, and they obviously don't care if they get down. They can come back. They can play with the lead. I like Detroit a lot. I like their team. I like their coach, Dan Campbell. I think they're pretty damn good.
Yeah, if there's one coach in the NFL that can get you to buy in, it's none other than Dan Campbell. Michael and I were talking on the way up here. Are the Lions, the Packers aren't a bad team, but they're not a great team. We were going over the Lions' wins, and I know we talked about this last week, Coach. But, Michael, they have beat the Chiefs with no Travis Kelce, week 1, the Falcons, Packers, Panthers, Bucks, Raiders, Chargers, Bears. Does that concern you about the Detroit Lions at all of it? While they are 8-2, they haven't really beat anybody that blows you off the charts.
Yeah, obviously their biggest win there is against the Chiefs, and you can't underestimate how tough of a game that is. But those week 1 games, that's always a weird week in terms of outcomes. And when you look at the rest of their schedule since then, to your point, Not a lot of, great teams in there. So, definitely something to watch going forward in terms of the teams that they're playing. I still think they're a really good team, and I really have always been a big fan of Dan Campbell ever since he's come to Detroit. So I wouldn't sell too much stock because of that, but it's definitely something that is an interesting point that you brought up.
Jared Goff threw 3 picks last week, Coach. Does that concern you at all against the Bears defense? That isn't great. They added some piece at the deadline, but the Bears defense isn't great.
No, the Bears defense, Matt Eberflus does a nice job of forcing people to check the ball down. And if you get greedy against the Bears defense like that, you'll throw some interceptions, and that's what he did. But he still had the mental toughness, Grant, to come back and get themselves a victory. Had a good 2-minute drill, came back, hurried up the offense, and they got it in there and won the game.
Got to give credit where credit's due. Justin Fields looked good last week. He really did, and I'm not a huge fan of him, but he looked good. And I think down the road, if he continues to play well, depending on what pick they get, they're probably going to still continue to lose games. And that might raise some questions as what they do in the NFL draft. I know we've talked about that like we're beating a dead horse. But the next game on the slate for tomorrow's Thanksgiving one it should be a good one. I know the Cowboys are favored by 12.5 points. Let's go ahead and get the picks up there. JJ's not here, obviously. He's the only one taking the Commanders to cover. So, Coach Jay, obviously you're with me. You're on the over as well as the Cowboys to cover. But I'm going to have you cover for your son here since he's slacking, and your Washington Commanders. What do they need to do? Keys for the Commanders to cover in this football game. And by some miracle, what would they need to do to not only cover, but somehow win the ball game?
Well, they probably have to do something that they're not used to doing. They haven't done it all year, and that's run the ball and commit to the run. The one thing the defense of the Cowboys has that I believe is a little bit of a weakness is the run defense. They have very light linebackers, and teams, Carolina even last week, gashed them a couple times in the run game. The problem is that's not what Washington does. They don't have the tight ends that can block the point of attack. Their offensive line hasn't really moved people off the ball like you need to run the ball effectively, but they have to figure out a way to run the ball. They cannot drop back and throw the ball 50 times against Dallas. Micah Parsons might break a league record for sacks. It'll be a bad day for Washington.
Yeah, Sam Howell was still obviously. I know didn't he have a rough game last week, right, Sam Howell?
Yeah, he threw 3 picks.
Yeah, that's rough. Definition of a rough game, but he could bounce back. Michael, I know we'll get into it later. You absolutely hate the Eagles. But thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys? Again, I feel like every national media personality, everyone's got a different opinion on the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, that defense. Do you think they win tomorrow with ease? Just overall thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys team that has a good record and is red hot right now?
Yeah, they're really hot right now. And I think when it comes to the Cowboys, what they're really good at is beating up on teams that aren't as good as them. So, when I see a game like this, Cowboys, Commanders, whenever it's a game in the division, anything can happen. Those are matchups where the teams know each other well. But this is one where I've got the Cowboys. I'd have them covering. And their defense can just get red hot and they can come out quick and get at you.
Yeah, Micah Parsons is an absolute stud. And Tony Pollard's had a great year. CeeDee Lamb is finally, I know he had a slow start to the year, but he's finally coming on.
Everything points to the Cowboys. That's the problem. That's a scary thing. The Cowboys have the 5th ranked offense in the league, and the Commanders have the 32nd ranked defense in the league, right? Oof. So Bland has got 4 pick sixes. Sam Howell throws a lot of picks. I mean, it's scary. Micah Parsons is a sack machine, and the Commanders don't protect very well. However, when I was my first year as an NFL coach, we were 2-5, I think, going to Dallas, and Dallas is 6-1 on Monday Night Football. Colt McCoy was our quarterback. Nobody gave us a chance to win. Nobody. We went up there, beat them in overtime, 20-17. This rivalry goes back to 1960, and it used to be dubbed as the #1 rivalry in all sports. So the Commanders should be ready to go, and it should be a better game than I think that people think. But I still think at the end of the day, the Cowboys are just way too talented for this Commander team.
Forgive me because I don't know the answer. Did you ever have a Thanksgiving game in your career?
Yeah, I had like 3 of them.
How'd they go? Did you like playing on Thanksgiving? Thoughts? Hate it? Love it?
I like playing on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is fun because they're afternoon games, and the preparation is a little tough because you don't have a lot of time to do that. But when the game's over, you go have your turkey with the team or whatever it is, and you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off of the Thanksgiving weekend to really enjoy the time and then get back to work on Monday. So I did enjoy it. It's such an important time for the NFL. It's such a big time. Everybody's watching you, so it was fun.
Yeah, nothing better than football, beers, and food and family on Thanksgiving. 49ers Seahawks is the nightcap of the Thanksgiving slate. I would have loved to ask JJ why on earth he's on the Seahawks to cover in this game. Geno Smith's got a bum right elbow. He's going to give it a go. DK Metcalf is always on the injury report. He's going to play. Kenneth Walker is doubtful in this game, not going to play. Coach Jay, does Kenneth Walker not being on the field? Like, I think the 49ers, I don't think the Seahawks are as good as a 6-4 record. Is that a bad take? Because I don't know. I think the 49ers might win this game by 15-20.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think the Seahawks aren't as good at either. Geno Smith is so up and down. It's just hard to figure out which Geno Smith you're going to get. However, Charbonnet is a pretty good running back, and I think he'll do just fine for Kenneth Walker, although he's pretty explosive, had a couple good games lately. But I just think San Francisco can hit you so many different ways. Brock Purdy had a perfect quarterback rating last week, tied Joe Montana and Steve Young. And when he's able to set his feet on first and second down and do those play action passes, they're hard to defend. They really are. The only chance you have to stop them is if you get them in third and long and make them in known passing situations. Then you can get your pass rush home and let your nickel and your other corners make some plays. But if McCaffrey's going and first and second down, they're successful, it'll be a long day for Seattle. I think that Seattle or San Fran's just too good.
I'm tired of just trashing on Brock Purdy. All right, he's been playing good, but
Brock Purdy's in the MVP conversation. Grant,
no,
MVP,
he's not. No, he's not.
100%. If they win out their last 6 games and he continues to do what he has done the last 4 or 5, I mean, for sure.
Is he in the MVP conversation?
Well, I mean, what's going in his favor right now is the MVP race is pretty wide open, as much as it's been, at this point in the year. There's it's there for the taking.
I'm pulling up the odds right now in the MVP race.
He's in the race. I've seen him odds-wise.
Listen to this show, put a couple dollars on Brock Purdy to win MVP. If they stay healthy, Debo and Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, and now they got Bosa and the defense playing well. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and he had a perfect week last week. So if he, has a few more of those, he'll move up there pretty fast as they, stack a few more wins.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think he can put up good numbers against Seattle. And I think they play the Rams and they play some teams that have some weaker type defenses. So he can put up some numbers. He can make a run. I'm telling you. Right now it's Jalen Hurts and Mahomes probably, maybe a little sprinkle on Tyreek Hill. I think A.J. Brown probably dropped down a little bit. I don't think there's really a defender that can jump in there. Myles Garrett maybe. But who else is there?
Here we go. So he's in the race. All right. He has long odds, but he's in the race. Jalen Hurts is plus 200, number one, front runner. Lamar Jackson at plus 400. Mahomes plus 450. Tua plus 500. Brock Purdy plus 1,400. So he's got some long odds.
That's a good play.
sprinkle somebody on Brock Purdy. Where the hell is you? Would you take Brock Purdy on the MVP over CJ Stroud right now? Seriously?
Well, there's a lot of games left. I'm banking on San Francisco winning at least how many games they have? 6 left? 5 of the 6, right?
Yeah.
Possibly being a number 1 seed or number 2 seed. Now it depends on how Philly does and Jalen Hurts does coming out, obviously. But if they continue to play well and Philadelphia struggles against Dallas or somebody else, they have a tough schedule, and San Fran gets a number 1 seed and Brock Purdy is continuing to play like he's been playing, why not, Grant?
I mean, he had 2 or 3 bad weeks, and then he went perfect out of nowhere. He was really good.
Everybody's going to have a couple of bad weeks. Mahomes had a bad week last week. He had a couple of bad weeks. He had a bad week in the loss they had when they lost who that was. To I can't remember. They only scored 9 points. So, yeah.
The Broncos. Yeah, 100%.
Broncos, yeah.
The rest of the way, the 49ers, they go Seahawks, Eagles, Seahawks, Cardinals, Ravens, Commanders, Rams. Woo. So, I mean, it's not
tough ones in there.
Yeah, not an easy schedule, but you're right. I mean, if with that schedule, if Brock Purdy runs the table,
they light up Baltimore, and
for sure. No, I hear you. I hear you for sure. If they go on the run with that schedule and Brock Purdy goes again, like you just said, against Baltimore, lights them up, goes to Philly, lights them up, beats the Seahawks twice. I mean, I see where you're coming from.
I think it's just worth the sprinkle. I'm not saying he's going to win it. I think it's worth the sprinkle. For
sure. And again, I got to give him his flowers. He played, again, like you mentioned, Michael, he was perfect last week.
Yeah, and the 1 seed goes a long way in terms of, getting MVP votes. So if he can run the table there with a schedule that difficult and wind up with a 1 seed, that he's going to make a strong case there. Maybe even, if you're talking about non-quarterbacks too, maybe even a McCaffrey for that matter, if they can get the 1 seed and then he plays really well too.
I want to see a year where a quarterback doesn't get it. Like you mentioned, Myles Garrett, he's phenomenal. Quarterbacks, obviously.
Absolutely no reason why a quarterback shouldn't win it every year. That's the toughest position to play in all of sports. And if you lead your team to a number 1 seed and you're throwing for a bunch of yards and you're having success, there's no way you give it to a running back over a quarterback or a defensive end.
I'll rephrase. I'm excited to see the day, if it ever comes, when a guy that's not a quarterback wins. I think it will be pretty cool. But again, you're right. If you go on that run, a quarterback's got to win it.
Taylor back in the day, maybe prime time with all his picks and his punt returns and all that stuff. I could see that possibly, but I don't think. No.
For sure. Yeah. Black Friday football is interesting, and it's actually a pretty gross game. Dolphins at Jets. Coach Jay, I got to give a shout out to JJ while he's not on air. This is JJ's play, not only of the week, but of the entire damn year. JJ's play is under 40.5 in this Dolphins-Jets game, which I love it. The Jets have a good defense, and the Jets are trotting out. Let me check my notes. Are they trotting out Tim Boyle, Coach Jay? Tim Boyle. I swear, every time I go to Marshall's and check out at Marshall's, the guy's name's Tim Boyle. I mean, why are we not starting Trevor Siemian over Tim Boyle, Coach? Any insight you have as to that, I would love to know, because I think it's absolutely berserk. And the fact that Zach Wilson is now the third-string quarterback.
He's the third string now.
Is pretty bizarre.
Say.
Yeah, it's unfair to Zach. Zach struggled, I get it, but so did everybody around him. The play calling hadn't been very good. The pass blocking hasn't been very good. The run game's been okay. The only person they got Garrett Wilson, of course, Breece Hall. They're the 2 best players, and they fail to get them the ball consistently. So I don't know. Maybe Tim Boyle come in there, get the ball to Garrett Wilson, hand the ball off to Breece. Just hand the ball off. Hand it off, hand it off. If they can do that, then they'll have a chance. But if not, if he has to go back and pass, good luck, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, so I just got a text. 2006 was the last non-QB to win the MVP. LaDainian Tomlinson was the last one. 2006.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come back to you here again. Michael, I'm coming to you. Tim Boyle, man. It seems bizarre, right? Like the Jets, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to play all year, because they're 4-6. They're not going to be in the playoff race. I doubt it, because their quarterbacks are just so bad.
I think I saw a report that Aaron's targeting early December to come back in terms of practicing, and had eyeing up any games in mid to late December around there.
If they're 4-9, he's not
it's exactly though. It's just if they're not like firmly in the playoff hunt, it's hard to believe that he's going to come back, 3 months after that major of a surgery, and put himself out there like that. So, if they're not in the race, which it looks like they're not going to be, I don't see him coming back. But in terms of the current quarterback situation, I was surprised when Zach Wilson went all the way down to the third string. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to go that far. And also, I kind of just feel bad for him in terms of how this year has played out.
I kind of do too.
A little bit of a scapegoat situation going on where nobody wanted this year to go the way it has. And I don't think he hasn't been amazing, but I don't think it is as much on him as maybe it's been played out.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, he was supposed to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, learn from one of the best, and he got thrown into the fire. And like he just said, he's now I will say, they gave him a lot of time week after week to prove even when he was playing bad, and he didn't. But do you feel bad for Zach Wilson at all, Coach?
I don't know if bad's the right word. I feel bad for the Jet fans, because Zach Wilson should have been out of there. Once they went after and got Aaron Rodgers and decided to bench their first-round pick, they should have just cut ties and got another backup or somebody else who'd come in and be a veteran-type presence or a younger developing-type guy to back up. They already knew Zach Wilson couldn't do it, or they weren't happy with his performance and his development. That's why they went out and got Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know why they kept Zach Wilson in the first place, but I do feel bad for him. He looks like he tries hard. He just hadn't had a whole lot of opportunities. Their offensive line has not been very good, obviously. The running game has been below average. The pass concepts that they run, they're covered. It's just tough. It's been a tough year for him and the Jet fans.
Am I able this week? Can I pull the 0.0 out of my pocket this week and say that there is a 0.0% chance that the Jets beat the Dolphins, Coach Jay?
Well, anytime you run out the Jet defense out there on the field, I don't think you give them a 0.0 chance. If they can get some turnovers and get Tua on the grass and hit him a lot, Tua could turn the ball over, give the Jets some opportunities, and they have a chance to win 17-13. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Get some touchdowns, some pick sixes, a punt return, a block punt. They can get all that, then yes, they can win.
Yeah, I think too, if it's a cold, wet day in New York and that Miami offense comes up there against that Jets defense, like if it doesn't click from the start for Miami, there's a chance that, ends up being close. But outside of that, if that offense hits the ground running fast, it could get ugly fast.
Well, if the Jets still have Sauce and DJ Reed out there at corners,
then
I think they have a chance. What the heck?
Is there no corner in the NFL that can guard Tyreek Hill? Is there not a single corner in the NFL that can guard that guy? Is he just that good?
I mean, think you can guard him on certain plays, but to cover him for 60 minutes or like 55 or 60 plays in a game is tough. He's going to get open, obviously, but you can slow him down. You can slow him down with different types of coverages, but you're not going to have any corners going to play man-to-man on him all game and say, I'm going to shut him down. No, you got to mix and match your coverages and then your intent, your leverages, outside leverage with help inside leverage with the sideline as your help. You got to do a lot of different things to help them. Cover 2, cover 3.
It makes me think of that Browns divisional game in Arrowhead back in 2020 when it was the Chiefs had the ball. It was 4th down, and they went for it in their own territory to win the game, and they threw it to Tyreek. He got open immediately, just completely burned the defense. It's like even the situation like that where they're like that's their guy they're going to him, like you can't even stop him there.
Yeah, he had that injury last week, but he's going to play this week, so he'll be just fine. Next game on the slate, let's get into some AFC North football. Let's get into some AFC North football now. Steelers, Bengals. Coach Jay, Matt Canada's gone, and I'm so damn excited. You know why? Because no matter what happens the rest of the year, you can't say, oh, the Steelers defense is hurt, or oh, Matt Canada sucks. No, you know what, Coach? We're finally get to see that Kenny Pickett's just garbage. And there's no more scapegoats for Kenny Pickett. The coordinator talk is gone. Like I said, the injuries are gone. It's about time you put up, you shut up, you put up points. And the Bengals defense is not very good. They're depleted. They have injuries. They let up points. Coach Jay, thoughts on Matt Canada getting the boot? And Kenny Pickett, can we just all agree that Kenny Pickett is just not a good quarterback?
I just don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are very good on offense in general. I don't know who's going to call plays for them. I mean, you look at the first play of the game against the Browns last week. There's a nickel blitz. The defensive end is going to spike. The tight end is there to help chip the defensive end. The left tackle jumps outside like I can't even believe it. And the defensive end shoots inside, hits Kenny Pickett for a loss of 9, almost a safety. I mean,
it was a safety.
It was a safety? No, it wasn't.
It was.
Oh, yeah, they didn't call it safety.
It wasn't ruled a safety, but it looked like it.
But stuff like that, it just can't happen. So I just don't know. The tackles aren't very good. They don't have any running back. They got 2 good running backs, I guess, but the tight end has been hurt all year. I think George Pickens, he doesn't separate. He's really good at the back shoulder, one-handed catches, toe taps, but he never separates. I just feel bad for Kenny Pickett. I just don't think they have a lot of talent on offense.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for Kenny Pickett. I just don't think he's very good. And I think the rest of the year we're going to find that out.
He misses throws. You're right. He has missed some throws that were there, and that's not Matt Canada's fault. I mean, he misses a shallow cross. He throws it 8 yards over the guy's head. I mean, and the fire Matt Canada. So I don't know. Just a lot of issues there at Pittsburgh, personnel-wise, I believe. And play calling wasn't great. That's obviously, I'm not going to stick up for Matt Canada, but I do think that they need to make a change, and hopefully this new coordinator, whoever it is, will try to get George Pickens more involved, and he can separate and make some plays.
And on the inverse, Jake Browning is going to be a really weird quarterback game. I'm rooting for Jake Browning. I think he could be decent. His press conference, he passed the eye test. He said all the right things, which obviously at the end of the day has to translate. You got to go play football. Coach, you know anything crazy about Jake Browning? He saw his weapons. T. Higgins reportedly going to be back. Jamar Chase. Joe Mixon's a damn good running back. I think the Bengals will show the picks one more time, Peter, but I think the Bengals, I think they win this game outright. I really do.
Yeah, I could see that happen. I just think the Bengal defense is going to get back on track this week. Trey Hendrickson against these tackles will make it a nightmare for Kenny Pickett. And I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball that well against the Bengal defense either. So I took the Bengals. This will be a low-scoring game, probably 13-10, something like that. I think the Bengals will get through it.
Any Kenny Pickett thoughts or Matt Canada thoughts now that they're out of the way? I just think that at the end of the day, like I said, man, now there's no more excuses. It's put up or shut up time.
Yeah. I don't think there's any more excuses now. Like, I think if you ask the Steelers fans, what they would always say is, oh, Matt Canada, like, he's the issue. Like, Kenny Pickett can be the guy, like, based on some flashes they've seen. But like, if you ask me, like, going forward, like, I don't expect Kenny Pickett to have any sort of career resurgence now that Matt Canada is gone. But I think there's a chance when you talk about this Bengals game, maybe the offense does come out hot, if it's a situation of now that Canada's gone, the Raiders have came out, hot, for the weeks following, McDaniels getting sacked. But, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case for them.
That stat about what happens when a team fires a coach, Jay. It is usually a head coach.
It's a head coach, Grant. It's a head coach.
It is. But like Michael just
said, the new offensive coordinator's got to run the same plays that Canada had. He's not going to change the whole concepts of – he's not going to say, okay, here's our new formation package. Here's our new protection package all in 3 days. It's impossible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It'll be a little bit more difficult. Now, he can change the way he calls them and when he calls the plays, which I think will be a refreshing thing for the players. So I think their change could help the Steelers a little bit.
I'm talking about, the lighting the fire under the ass,
Coach. Lighting the fire.
That doesn't always work, but I think that could play a part here a little bit. Next game on the slate, Cleveland Browns are taking on the Denver Broncos. Coach Jay, give me a round of applause. I'm actually not taking them this week. Last week you asked me if I like anybody other than Cleveland. Obviously, I give props where they're due. This is going to be a tough game for the Browns. The Denver Broncos are red hot. The Browns defense is absolutely fantastic, as we know. Russell Wilson's due for a turnover. I just think for DTR, he looked better last week. He didn't look great. There were a lot of drops, but I just think going to Mile High on the road is going to be a tall task. I'm not saying the Browns can't win, and of course, Vegas is always right, and the spread it's basically a pick 'em here. But Coach Jay, I just think with the red-hot Denver Broncos, and obviously I can't pick the Browns every week, I just think that this could be a great game no matter what, but I do think the Broncos, unfortunately, get it done at home against my Cleveland Browns this Sunday.
Yeah, I just have been really impressed with Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator for the Broncos. What he went through early in the season, he was almost one of the first defensive coordinators fired. In fact, I thought he might have been after the 70-point game against Miami. He has totally turned that defense around. He's got them believing, playing hard. They're tackling better. They're pursuing of the ball faster. They believe in the system. They're where they're supposed to be, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. And they have, I think the last 5 weeks, they're holding teams under 16 or 17 points a game, which is unbelievable if you watched them in the first 3 games. They were awful. I mean, the Commanders beat them 38-34, I believe. And then Miami puts up 70. So it's a hell of a turnaround for them. And I think Russell will do enough. I like the one thing about Russell that I've been impressed with. He's not turning the ball over. He's throwing a lot of dinks and dunks, which is fine. It's moving the chains. He's making the chain crew work. They got to run up and down, respot it, run again. But he's moving the chains, and he's throwing the ball up to Cortland Sutton, and they're doing good. So I think that'll be the same type of recipe. I don't think it's going to be a very pretty game. I don't see Russell Wilson throwing for 300 yards, anything like that. But I do think that Cleveland will do enough, or Denver will do enough to beat Cleveland in this one.
Kareem Jackson suspended for the hit. That guy just was coming back from a suspension in that Sunday night game against Minnesota and then led with the helmet. I want to get your thoughts. Hip drop tackles. I'll ask the whole panel here. I mean, can we just play football? Like, are we really going to try to ban a tackle in the game of football? Like, obviously it's dangerous, but I mean, we can't. What, are we going to start playing two-hand touch in a couple years? I mean, Coach Jay, what are your thoughts on the hip drop tackle nonsense that's being talked about right now?
Well, I agree with you. I think it's nonsense. I don't. When you're trying to tackle a grown man like a Derrick Henry or a big guy like A.J. Brown out in space, I mean, you're trying to get him on the ground any way you can. I'm not going to try to, oh my gosh, I gotta turn my body around this way, or I gotta hit him lower or higher, higher or lower. I mean, it's very hard for these guys to tackle these guys as it is, let alone making all these rules. And now you're giving these referees another reason to throw a game-changing type flag, 15 yards, automatic first down. Awful.
Hip drop tackles?
Yeah, I agree with Coach. Like, I think there's a lot of situations in these games where, you see flags thrown for, unnecessary roughness or anything like that related to those types of hits. And, a lot of times when you see the replay, you sit there and you think to yourself, like, what else are they supposed to do? Right. Like, how are they supposed to fully stop themselves in the momentum, like in the heat of the game and everything like that? So, I'm totally with you guys on that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we're The no fun league is what a lot of people call it, and what a lot of times I like to call it as well.
Tell the rules committee to go try to tackle Derrick Henry, and you're going to go to the side and try to get him on the ground. Ask them how they want to try to get him on the ground. All right. I'm going to hip drop. I'm going to, horse collar. I'm going to get him on the ground somehow. It'll probably be a flag, but I got to get him on the ground. I can't just go grab his ankle and tug him. I mean, it's stupid.
For sure. I'm with you. It's unfortunate, but it is very stupid. And again, I'm all about any way you can protect players, but it's football. It's not patty cake or touch your best friend. It's a grueling, violent sport. And that's why a lot of people like it. So they just can't take away. It's like baseball, right? You got the pitch clock and you got this. Like you can't change the game and take away the purity and what makes the sport the sport. And I just think in professional sports, unfortunately, that is starting to happen in not just football, but again, I mentioned baseball. Basketball has got some rules. It's like every sport.
I actually did like the pitch clock in baseball. I can actually watch a game now.
It speeds it up, but again, baseball's not meant to be a sped up, fast sport. It
doesn't need to be. You don't need to throw the ball over to first base 26 times either.
I'm with you on that part, Coach. I'm with you on that part. Saints Falcons. Derek Carr is questionable, but he is going to play. They said today. Falcons are going back to Desmond Ridder, Michael. It went from bad to ugly to worse. I mean, how do you bench Desmond Ridder? You put Taylor Heineke in. He doesn't perform. So now you're going to be like, oh, we're sorry we benched you. We're going to go back to you. It just seems weird.
Yeah, I've always liked Heineke and what he did in Washington. I thought he was going to do better when he got the shot there, especially with the weapons that Atlanta has. Obviously, excuse me, it's been a bit of a quarterback carousel there this season. Outside of that, if they can figure that out, I like the offense a lot. And if they can figure out how to fully utilize those guys they've used high picks on, like Kyle Pitts, Bijan, Drake London, like if they can get that firing on all cylinders and figure out a way to get those guys the ball consistently, like that's going to be a tough offense to stop.
Coach, Michael and I were talking on the way up here. We were talking about potential destinations for Justin Fields if the Bears get the first round pick. A lot of people have mentioned Pittsburgh, but I could totally see Atlanta being a destination for Justin Fields if they draft Caleb Williams, if they move on. I mean, can we agree, Coach, that they're going to have a new quarterback next year, the Falcons?
Yeah, I think Ridder. They went back to Ridder because didn't Heineke pull his hamstring?
Oh, did he? I didn't know he did.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he pulled his hamstring. But yeah, I agree. They have some young talent. Pitts has never really emerged, and it's hard for receivers and receiving type tight ends to really play well if your quarterback doesn't throw the ball very well. And you're known as a running football team. So I think eventually they're going to have to move on and get a different quarterback through the draft, maybe Justin Fields, maybe some other veteran guy that's looking for a job. And they'll have to get another guy for sure because they do have some talented guys. Their offensive line is pretty good as well. Defensively, they're not that good. But, I took I bet against Atlanta just because they have just so much inconsistency at the quarterback position. You have to be consistent at that position to have a chance. You can't be up 1 week, down the next week, up 1 week, down the next week. You got to be consistently and continue to get better and better. And they're not doing that. They're getting worse in my eye.
Yeah, I mean, Bijan Robinson is a stud. I mean, 125 carries, 612 yards, 2 touchdowns. Olave's, starting to come on now over on the inverse in New Orleans. Michael Thomas, I think the guy's career is over. Great starts of the year, but he just can't stay healthy. Which just sucks because when he was playing, he was damn good.
Back in 2019, that was an amazing year for him.
Fantastic receiver. And I can only imagine, him plus Olave, if they were still healthy all year. Taysom Hill is a weapon. They Alvin Kamara, they have weapons there.
Yeah. That's why you got to take New Orleans just because I feel like they have more guys they can get the ball to. And I think their defense is still pretty good. That's
why I'm shocked that Atlanta is a favorite in this game. It's Vegas knows something. I don't know what they know, but I just think that line, trap.
It's a very, very big game for both teams for the division title for both of them. And, you're looking at both of them are still in the wild card hunt as well. So it's going to be an interesting game and very important for both of them.
Next game on the slate, Panthers, Titans. We'll keep rolling here. Will Levis has come to the Will Levis hype train has come to a halt here. Lost the last 2 games, I believe. Checking my notes, they lost 20-6 and 34-14. Hasn't been great. They've lost their last 3 games, including the Pittsburgh game. Will Levis looked good there. I love it, Coach. You're taking the Carolina Panthers with me. They're 1-9. Bryce Young is miserable to extreme. I don't think it is. But talk to me some keys on how the Carolina Panthers cover on the road against the Tennessee Titans, led by Will Levis.
I did like the way Carolina ran the ball last week, so that'll help Bryce Young, I hope. And he can get outside the pocket, get Adam Thielen going a little bit, get some big plays. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means. I think this is going to be a 3-point game, a field goal at the buzzer. Something crazy is going to happen. And I just took the points, and I think Carolina might get off the schneid this week. They got the new coordinator getting his third game to call plays. So maybe they'll find something that Bryce Young is comfortable with and make some plays happen. Tennessee, I'm with you on Will Levis. He looked good the first week, threw a couple bombs to DeAndre Hopkins, but after that, nothing's really happened.
Michael, do you think, obviously we've been talking about it all the time, man, even off air, right, is like, it's been a year of injuries, right? We've seen it left and right. You've got the Browns, who I know I texted you, they're a lock to make the playoffs, Coach Jay, and you didn't want to hear it. It's whatever. They're going to get in. They have Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They just signed Joe Flacco, which I'll get your thoughts about later because I want to get your thoughts, Coach Jay. But you've got the Bengals and Jake Browning. You got the Vikings in Kirk Cousins out. Josh Dobbs, everybody, like, I love him. The story's awesome, but he's just, the numbers don't lie. In Arizona, he was not good.
Yep.
Could you see, I'm going to go to you, Michael, then I'll go to you, Coach. Could you see a team like the Titans or Ryan Tannehill, for that matter, going to that front office saying he wants to release and being swooped up by a contender? I think the Browns might be off the board now, but could you see it happening? I think I could.
Yeah, it's a good question. Clearly if the Titans aren't going to use him the rest of the year, and he's not in their long-term plans, then as part of,
there's no way he is.
Yeah, him figuring out what his future is, it would, it wouldn't be crazy to think that, he could request that and try for this to not be a wasted year, especially when you look at a team like Cleveland, right, where everyone knows how good the defense is, and that they need someone on that offense who can take command of it and just help them offensively. It seems like it'd be a really tempting role to fill, but for both, his benefit and the team's benefit. So I don't see why that couldn't happen. To be honest, I'm not sure what the technicalities are there in terms of the rules and what would have to happen, but I don't see why he, to be honest, wouldn't do that.
Jay, can you see it happening?
I couldn't see it happening, but it could happen. I mean, you're right, Grant. You throw a lot of fictitious shit out there, and sometimes it might happen, but I doubt it. I don't think they're just going to give away a starting quarterback for nothing. I think that he'll stick it out with Tennessee. I think he'll probably end up playing again this year because Will Levis, unless he turns it around a little bit, I mean, they might go back to him. Who knows? But I don't. Who knows? You know more than I do, Grant.
You're talking about throwing crazy shit out there. I mean, the Colts cut Shaq Leonard, for Christ's sake. I mean, crazy things happen left and right. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I mean, I was sitting in my office having a cup of coffee.
It could definitely happen. You're right. It could definitely happen.
I don't know more than
you want to do either. You're right. It probably does. You don't want to have a disgruntled veteran quarterback on your sidelines, making it miserable, making life miserable for your starter. So if he's acting like that, then yes, I could see it happening. But if Tannehill's a pro and trying to help Will Levis learn and he's good in the meeting rooms, then I don't see it happening.
Well, Ryan Tannehill did say that he wasn't going to help Malik Willis because it wasn't his job. Didn't he say that last year?
I think I saw that. Yeah,
right.
I've seen people draw the comparison of him and Malik and then him and Will.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, he didn't want to help Malik, but all of a sudden now Will Levis comes on. Yeah, I'm going to help him do whatever he wants. Okay, that's a little suspect, Ryan Tannehill. But I digress and we move on. Buccaneers, Colts. Again, I just mentioned it. They cut Shaq Leonard. Absolutely bizarre. I was saying there. I don't know what happened, Coach. I mean, why do you cut? I mean, they're not out of the AFC playoff race. Why are you cutting Shaq Leonard?
I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why you cut a player. Okay, it could be salary related. Could be his play has diminished lately. Could be his injury history. It could be his attitude. It could be a lot of things. But Shaq Leonard's had a hell of a career at Indianapolis, and that's unfortunate because he always seemed like a team leader to me, seemed like a great guy. Maybe Shaq went in there and demanded his release, and he'll go somewhere else and be on a playoff contender like some of these other guys have done in the past. But it's very surprising because I think Shaq Leonard at one time was one of the better inside linebackers in football.
Absolutely. Yeah, call it 2018 to 2021, that time period. He was lights out as one of the best linebackers in football. Now that he's cleared waivers, really curious to see who he winds up with. I saw a report saying that the Eagles were interested, the Cowboys as well.
I would say the Cowboys because you watch the Cowboys on tape, they need a middle linebacker. Van Der Esch has been hurt. They got Bell in there. He's a little guy. That's where I think if they could get a little bit of a bigger guy that could run sideline to sideline, it'd be perfect for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that'd be a good fit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Bucks, again, are underdogs in this game. Peter, throw those picks up there one more time. Coach, despite the Buccaneers' 4-6 record, and despite how much shit I give my boy Baker Mayfield, he's not been bad this year. And they didn't get the brakes beat off him by the 49ers. Brock Purdy had a perfect game, albeit, and they lost 27-14. I don't consider that a blowout in today's league. And that was on the road, so you're still going on the road, but you're playing Gardner Minshew. You're not playing CMC. You're not playing Brandon Ayuk. You're not playing Deebo Samuel. You're not playing George Kittle. I think it's interesting, Coach Jay, that the Buccaneers are underdogs in this game. Do you find it interesting at all?
A little bit, yeah. But going to San Fran and then going back home and then going back to Indy is a little tough deal. And they're not playing CMC, but they are playing Jonathan Taylor. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Michael Pittman. Yeah,
and the Colts line is getting better. And Gardner Minshew's a scrappy son of a gun, man. I coached him at Jacksonville for a year, and he's a good player. So I took Indianapolis because I have been very disappointed in Tampa Bay defense all year long. They give up big plays in the secondary. They're not as stout against the run as I thought they would be. I just take Indianapolis there at home, and I think they'll get it done.
What about you? I know you like to kiss Baker's ass sometimes here and there. Is he going to get it done in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I mean, the Colts have impressed me this year. In terms of like the line that you were talking about, the Colts being at home, you get around 2 points there, so call it. I think Indy's are, a tough environment to play in, especially since the Bucs have been on the road. But, the Colts are much more in it at this point in the season than I thought they would be going into it, especially if you told me that their quarterback was going to get injured early in the season. They're sitting there firmly at 5-5, very much in the wild card race in the AFC, as crazy as it is. They've been a tough out. This is a tough one for me in terms of a pick. I to your point, I do like to see Baker do well outside of Cleveland. I'm always sort of rooting for him and the things he did for us. So you got to show him some love there too. But I think the Colts are going to be a tough out.
Yeah, I mean, they beat the Patriots 10-6. They're coming off a bye. They played in that the Germany game, London, Germany, wherever it was. They beat the Panthers. It should be a close game, but again, I just think, Coach Jay, and I know you said you somewhat agree, I believe, but that line just seems weird. The next game on the slate, Patriots Giants. Before we came in, we were watching Nick Wright and his show, and they were debating that is this game a must lose for the New England Patriots? And I don't know if must lose games exist in sports, but I do know that the 2-8 Patriots need a quarterback. And I think out of any quarterback in this draft, Coach Jay, if I could pick one to play with under Belichick, Drake May probably fits like a glove in New England. Thoughts on that fit? I can see Bo Nix there too. Thoughts on those fits and the Patriots just disastrous season overall?
Well, there's a lot of fits for New England right now, hopefully, because their quarterbacks right now haven't played very well. Mac Jones has been a disappointment. Bill O'Brien's a decent offensive coordinator, but Mac Jones has thrown the ball into coverage. He's taken unnecessary sacks, and they're not really good around Mac Jones either. The running game's not very good. The receivers aren't very good, so it's unfair to pin it all on Mac. But a lot of those quarterbacks will fit for a lot of teams. There's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out this year. Obviously, Caleb's out there. I mean, the kid at LSU, if he comes out, he's pretty dang good. Sanders' son, he's pretty good. So there's a lot of opportunities to get a quarterback next year. But I don't think any team, especially a Bill Belichick coach team, is going to say, okay, we're going to tank it and try to get a good pick. That ain't going to happen. New England's going to come out smoking. They're coming off the bye, and I think they're going to play well and beat the Giants, who, despite beating Washington last week, they lose to Vegas. They get killed by Vegas. They get killed by the Cowboys. Somehow they miraculously beat Washington. I don't think it happens against New England up there.
Being so involved, obviously, as everybody knows, in the NFL in your past, and stop me if I've asked you this question before. Do you think that intentional losing happens in the NFL ever to get a better draft pick? Do you think that's ever a thing?
No, I don't think so. You can't tell 53 or 46 guys on your active roster to lose a game. It's impossible. Yeah. Now, you could try to sub and play a lesser quarterback or something like that, but your left tackle's still going to block. Your defensive lineman's still trying to get sacks. Your DBs are going to cover and tackle. It's impossible, and it's not something you ever want to be a part of. Having a team meeting, say, hey, we're going to tank this because we're going to get this guy from USC. It's impossible to say that or do that with a bunch of grown men who are battling on Sunday afternoon.
When you look back in terms of like the different regular seasons and how certain games have affected draft position, there's some games you can look back on that have like completely changed where these quarterbacks have gone. Like, for example, like in 2020, the Jets randomly, I remember they beat the Rams on a random week late in the year when the Rams are really good. And then that took the Jets out of getting Trevor Lawrence, which totally changed the outcome in terms of Rodgers, Zach Wilson, you know, all of that happening. And the Texans, you know, before this draft, this last season, I forget who they were playing. I think it might have been the Colts. I could be wrong, where they had this random last second win. All of a sudden they had the second pick instead of the first, and now they're set up with CJ Stroud. So, you know, you never know what's going to happen in terms of, you know, playing those games out and, you know, the wins and losses.
Yeah, great point. How about Tommy DeVito? Every week he's climbing up and up and up. Last week against your Commanders, 246 yards, 18 of 26, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, sacked 9 times, Grant. 9 times.
What does that have to do with
They hit a wheel route to
game?
Saquon Barkley, who was wide open. He beat Jamin Davis like a drum. They hit a little shallow cross takeoff to Slayton, who was wide open. Kendall Fuller ran into the safety, so there's nobody there. Then hit a little play action pass to the tight end, who snuck past the linebacker, who was wide open. They had 3 plays in that game. And they hit Saquon on a little flat route, those triple pick type play. He's wide open. There's 4 plays. That was it.
All I see is 246, 3 touchdowns, and 137 rating, coach. Great game. No, I didn't watch the game. But he has every week trended upwards a little bit. Again, I don't think Tommy DeVito is good, but better than Tim Boyle, that's for sure. Next game on the slate, we got Jaguars Texans. This is a huge game.
Big game.
In the division and in the playoff race. I'm the only one on the Jaguars. Coach Jay, I'm coming to you first. CJ Stroud. Fantastic. Absolutely electric. Thoughts on this game? Again, as I just mentioned, huge game for playoffs, seeding, division. It is in Houston, but I just think at some point the rookie has to come out of maybe I'm wrong, but at some point the rookie has to come out of CJ Stroud in a big game where he turns the ball over once or twice. Trevor Lawrence takes advantage. The Jaguars are the better overall complete team. I mean, CJ Stroud's been better than Trevor Lawrence this year. I mean, I'll 100% admit it. I just think in a big game at some point, the rookie's going to come out of the kid. Thoughts?
The rookie came out of the kid last week. He threw 3 picks, Grant. However, the veteran rookie came out and he came back and didn't even blink. Came back and threw a couple touchdown passes and got the big victory for them. I'm taking Houston because in a big game down there, that place will be rocking. I played when I coached for the Bengals in 2013 or 2010 or 12 and 13. We had to play at Houston in the playoff game. It was the loudest place I've ever been to. I mean, we had to do silent count and pregame warm-up. That place will be rocking. And I think CJ Stroud will make some plays. I do like Jacksonville too. I think both these teams are on the up and up. And I really am going to pull for one of these. Whoever wins this game, whoever wins this division, I'm really going to pull for them in the playoffs to make a little bit of a run. But I'm just taking Houston at home, and it's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be very, very loud. And CJ, what he did to come back last week, throwing 3 picks, I just got to give him a lot of credit. I'm hoping he does well.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to root for either of these teams. It's a great point, Coach. Who do you think gets it done in this game, Jags or Texans?
Yeah, if CJ Stroud can do what he's been doing the last few weeks, I could totally see the Texans at home playing it off. The Jaguars haven't been super consistent this year.
Interesting stat: the Jags were 4-0 on the road this year.
That is a good stat. Got some road dogs over there.
They're actually favorites, 2-point favorites, but that is an interesting stat. You don't usually see teams undefeated on the road. But I'm with you, right? If CJ Stroud comes back and is just what CJ Stroud's been for 99% of the year, I mean, 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 5 picks for a rookie is insane.
Yeah, and it's great for the sport whenever a game later in the season ends up being way better than everyone thought it would be going into the year. If you were to ask people going into this season outside of Texans fans, not many people probably would have had this one as, deciding the division or having big implications. So, really great that this is another big football game late in the year. And, as far as CJ Stroud goes, I was super impressed in the comeback he sort of led there, sort of not even maybe a comeback, but just the last minute drive he had against the Bucs. He was making some serious throws there with little time left to win that game. That was super impressive.
Yeah, he did it back to back. Bucs and the Bengals the week after on the road. The kid's a baller. Next game on the slate, we'll keep rolling. Rams Cardinals. Kyler Murray, I'm the only one on the Cardinals. I told you, God damn it, Coach Jay, you and your son, you guys probably took the same things in spite of me this week, man. Come on. The Cardinals, Kyler Murray, he doesn't look like a guy coming off an ACL tear. He looks pretty good. They've already got talks about Hollywood talking into a potential contract extension, getting him in on the same page with Kyler Murray again next year. The Cardinals, it scares me because they could use a loss to get a better pick for next year with a Kyler Murray. But again, you just said, Coach Jay, that doesn't exist in the NFL. The 4-6 Rams and Matthew Stafford get it done on the road, Jay?
I believe so. Now, the Rams are still in the playoff hunt. If they win this game, they're only a game back behind, maybe 2 games behind Minnesota. So they still have a chance to get in. And Stafford and obviously Puka and the running game's getting a little bit better. I'm just taking the Rams because I believe Sean McVay has Arizona's number. I don't know what his record is against Arizona, but I'm sure it's pretty good. And I think that he'll do well and they'll get another win and get right back in the playoff hunt. If Minnesota loses on Monday Night Football to the Bears and the Rams win, you're looking at a very tight race for that 7th seed in the NFC.
Looking at all these ticket prices here, they are at least $60 or more. And then you can get into the fun fact, Coach Jay. You can get into Rams Cardinals for a Chipotle burrito. $11 tickets you can get into this game. I guess their fans don't want to watch Kyler Murray, the 2-9 Cardinals, play the Rams. It's interesting. Again, every ticket price seems to be up there, but the Cardinals game. Chiefs Raiders will keep rolling here. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have receivers, and I was telling you guys before the year, as good as Patrick Mahomes is, he has Travis Kelce, but what happened, Coach Jay, against the Eagles, their practice squad receiver, Marquez Valdez Scantling, whatever the hell his name is, dropped the pass and they lost the game. I think the Chiefs, as you can see on the picks, I think they win this game with ease. Thoughts on Chiefs Raiders? The Raiders defense is no joke. They have pieces over there. Max Crosby's a fantastic stud. But do the Chiefs win this game pretty easily, Coach?
I took a -8.5, but it's never really easy in that division. That's a hell of a rivalry game as well. Kansas City and the Raiders go way back, and typically it's a close game, and it's going to be down to the wire, especially at Vegas. I just took the Chiefs because their defense is playing good, and O'Connell's going to have a really tough time. They're not going to be able to run the ball between the tackles of Chris Jones there. So it's going to be tough for the Raiders to move the ball. So I think the Chiefs win the game by a couple touchdowns. They'll pull away at the end.
Can you believe the Raiders gave Jimmy G 4 years, $72 million, and he's benched in week 12?
Yeah, that changed fast.
It's disgusting.
That was another one when you were talking about Tannehill. That's another quarterback where it's like, could that potentially, talk about ones that could ask for their release just in terms of how they haven't worked out.
Could be why the head coach isn't there anymore.
Yeah, for sure. It's bizarre that they pay that kind of the money and he's now not their quarterback. But it's a great point. Could be a very it could be exact reason why their head coach is not there anymore. The next game on the slate, we've got 3 more left before we get out of here. Bills, Eagles. You guys obviously are new to Michael. He is probably the biggest Eagles hater I have seen in my goddamn life. Why, I don't know. Last time I checked, Michael is a Browns fan, and the last time I checked, I don't remember the Eagles beating the Browns in any significant game because we've never been to a Super Bowl. Just what fuels the Eagles hate, man? What fuels it? There's really not any, many teams in the NFL that I just very specifically hate. The Eagles have become that team for me, just, with, some of the banter back home with some of my friends, how much they've, turned me against them and all the, sports debates we've had over time. What I like seeing after the Chiefs Eagles game was that clip of Sirianni in the tunnel yelling at the Chiefs fans. I've never seen anything like that from a coach walking out after a game. Did you see that clip, Coach?
I don't know what Coach thinks.
Yeah. What the hell is that about, man? I love the passion, but I mean, it was kind of corny. I gotta lie. I can't lie. Kind of corny.
Yeah, he's kind of a corny guy. Obviously. He's trying to bring out his Dan Campbell in him and all that stuff, be the tough guy in Philadelphia. But, you do what you got to do to motivate your team and make your fans happy. Who cares?
Is this okay, I'm coming back to the must-win talk, Coach Jay. Is this a must-win for the Buffalo Bills?
It's close to it, but I wouldn't say a must-win yet. There's still a lot of football to be played. If they can win 4 of their last 5, they'll still be okay. So I just think Buffalo right now, the new coordinator, I think Josh Allen's rolling a little bit. This is a heck of a game. Coming off the Monday night game, emotional win for Philadelphia. I think they might have a little bit of a letdown. Buffalo gets up early, hangs on at the end for the victory.
Wow. The Bills are in some deep shit, man. 6-5. Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Dolphins, Patriots. They're in some trouble, Coach.
Yeah, tough.
What would happen if the Bills missed the playoffs? Like, is McDermott? Do you think McDermott would get canned? I mean, there's no excuse for paying Josh Allen, paying Stephon Diggs, and then he missed the playoffs. Like, that would be generationally just a disaster in Buffalo.
Well, in fairness to them, they lost their leader on defense in Milano, and they lost their best corner, Tre'Davious White. It's hard to replace Pro Bowl type players. It really is. And unfortunately, they had two of them on the same side of the ball, which was really difficult. So, I don't know. I just think Josh Allen had some turnovers early. They lost some games they should have won. They missed a field goal, too many guys on the field. I mean, whatever it is. But they have to turn it around. They have to win some tough games in the last 5 or 6. That's what you have to do at this stage of the season right here. This is where teams are going to get hot down the stretch. Somebody's going to play themselves into the playoff and get hot at the right time and make a run.
Yeah, I think this is a big inflection point for Buffalo this week. Just in terms of Grant, you mentioned it. After Buffalo lost to the Broncos and they were sitting there, I think it was at 5-5. Everyone was looking at the stretch of the schedule that they have upcoming and saying, they're in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
If they can beat the Eagles here and kind of catch them off guard off of a big emotional win, like Coach said, and they're sitting there at 7-5, and they sort of have some momentum after beating, one of, if not the best team in the league, then they have some serious, life in them, going ahead here down the stretch. But if they lose and they're sitting at 6-6, like I said, I think it's just a big inflection point for them.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned losing 2 guys on defense is absolutely huge, but then, hey, I'm not just being a homer, I'm being real. Like, look at the Browns situation. The most important position in football is your quarterback.
He wasn't playing that great anyway. He had one good game, Grant. He had one good.
No, I'm not talking about Deshaun Watson. My point is they're still winning despite losing their quarterback. I mean, they played. That's what I'm saying is if they don't make the playoffs, who cares if they lost Tre'Davious White? I mean, somebody's got to go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Cowboys lost Diggs. They replaced him with some guy named Bland. He's got 4 pick sixes. You're right. Next guy up in this league. And I know that for a fact. That's what happens a lot in pro football. There's a lot of teams dealing with injuries, offensive line, linebackers, defensive line, not using that as an excuse. I'm just talking about the type of player that when you lose Pro Bowl type players, that's a little different to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. 2 games left on the slate. This is going to be a fantastic one. Ravens-Chargers, Sunday Night Football. I love the Ravens. I love Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is elite of elite, as elite as it gets. I'm taking the Chargers because it is just, and again, this might not come into play, but it is just so bad in LA. Brandon Staley he looks like he should be coaching a D3 college football team right now. They got to win. They paid Justin Herbert all that money. We were talking about it again. All those pieces on defense, not translating. The Ravens are the better team, hands down, but on the road in LA, Sunday Night Football, indoors in a game, you have to win. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think. And Michael, I think that the Chargers actually might win this game outright.
Yeah, I agree. On paper, the Ravens are a much better team, and they're as good as it gets in the AFC right now. But when you talk about that Chargers team, having this game home in LA, it's really tough for any East Coast teams to travel all the way out west and do well in that stadium. And also, whenever I see the Chargers on the schedule, regardless of what their record is, regardless of anyone thinking that they choke, like I never think they're an easy out. Like they've got so much talent on that roster on both sides of the ball, whether it's at wide receiver, tackle, quarterback, running back, pass rusher, corner, that, I just never think they're an easy out. And I think they can upset anyone any given week.
Coach, do you believe in that philosophy as well? Thoughts on this game? Again, I think it's going to be a
Detroit
fantastic.
went out there and whooped their ass. I mean, it's going to happen again. And the formula that Detroit used was a powerful running game, which Baltimore has. They can hit you with the Gus Edwards. They can hit you with Mitchell now. They got Lamar running the ball. I know they're going to be missing their tight end, which is Mark Andrews is a huge part of their offense, but I think the running game is what's going to set them free. They'll have a lot of success running the football, and then that'll open up Zay Flowers, right? That'll get him some balls down the field, and hopefully Odell Beckham gets going. I think the Ravens are, like you guys said, the better team. But you're right. In the pro football, when you're the home team, you got a pretty good advantage. So anything can happen in any given day, any given week. I mean, we've proven it already this year, last year, the year before that. Something crazy happens in the NFL. It could happen this week as well.
Yeah, how about Odell? He's 100 yards last week. He's starting to come on pretty strong. We've had some pretty strong debates about Odell, but it's funny because he looked like the first half of the season banged up, hurt, washed. But I mean, the past 2 weeks he's looked pretty good. He looks like the Odell that they probably were intending to sign.
That's your guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's great wide receiver. It's a shame how it worked out here in Cleveland, but that's besides the point. Last game on the slate, Bears Vikings. Coach, what are we just riding the fact that Justin Fields had one good game and we think that they're going to go into Minnesota on primetime and do good again? I mean, I don't get it. Like, he had one good game. Great. Josh Dobbs, I will say the thing that scares me in this game, Coach Jay, is that he is also not great. But again, I just think you got TJ Hawkinson, you've got Jordan Addison, you've got KJ Osborne, you've just got more weapons on the Minnesota side. And then you've also got Daniel Hunter. You have also a good piece on defense. And I just think at the end of the day, on Monday Night Football in primetime, that's going to be too much for Justin Fields.
Well, Justin has played more than one good game, Grant. He played really good against the Commanders early in the year when they beat him 38-20. I mean, he looked like a superstar. He had some good games last year running the football. I think the way the Bears play defense, they're going to force Josh Dobbs to read the defense and play within the pocket. They're not going to let Josh Dobbs run around and scramble for 55 yards like Atlanta did and some of these other teams did. I mean, they're going to have a spy there. They're going to play with eyes, vision, and force him to make some tight window throws. And that's where Josh Dobbs will struggle a little bit. He's a great athlete, great kid, but his accuracy can be a question. I think that'll be the result. The result of that will be some turnovers for Chicago. And I think they're going to make some plays. I think it'll be a close game, whether Minnesota wins or Chicago wins. I don't know, but I think it's going to be a close game within 2 or 3 points.
Interesting. Mike, you got thoughts as we wrap up on this last Monday Night Football game?
Yeah, this is a really close one for me, with how well Justin Fields played last week. He had a really good turnout against the Lions. It's a super tough team, as we all know.
Their defense is suspect. The Lions' defense is suspect as it gets.
They are. And they really haven't beat anybody crazy good either, other than the Chargers at the Chargers.
Yep.
All these teams. I mean, Lions 8-2 haven't beat anybody. Dolphins 7-3 haven't beat anybody. When they do have a test, they fail it. I think with these good teams that are quote unquote on paper good, and again, the Lions are a damn good football team, and so are the Dolphins. Come playoff time, one of them is going to get exposed because they have to play each other, right? So we're going to see
the whole key is to get in that son of a gun first, and hopefully that your team is getting healthy at the right time. You're building, you're getting better and better at the right time, and then you get hot and make some plays and then make a run. That's what it's all about. But you got to get in the tournament first.
Got to get in the dance. Michael, we appreciate you joining us, man.
Yeah, great being on. It was a ton of fun, and thank you guys for having me on. It was a great time.
Coach Jay, happy Thanksgiving to you and the family. Best of luck going for 3 weeks straight on the picks.
Thank you.
Hopefully JJ makes it through the traffic. And Benjamin Albright will be joining us next Wednesday night here on Taking the Points. So look forward to that. And Jay, I will catch you next week, man.
You got it. See you guys later.